Okay.
Hey everybody, I'm with Gabe Ekemezie, and this is Dr. Grossi with the podcast Is Not Hereditary. The man, the myth, the guy is blown it up online. He's an entrepreneur. He helps people market. Hey Gabe, just really fast, man. Tell the audience, man, what exactly is your purpose, man? Why do you do what you do, Gabe?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Dr. Gross, for having me on the podcast, man. I really do appreciate that. And honestly, my purpose really is I want to just serve people and help people ultimately live their best lifestyle. And the reasoning behind that is because I see so many people put into certain situations or dealt certain cards in their life. And some people honestly feel like they don't have any options in life. Um, but to be honest, there's so much that all of us can accomplish. And for me personally, with my story, I was able to kind of come from a background where I kind of had to struggle a little bit to kind of get to where I'm at, and to share that with other people and to realize that we're all here for a reason. We all have a purpose. We all have there's a big plan for all of us, and to be able to just give back to people so they can create the lives that they want, and do that through financial freedom and creating an online business for themselves and
That's
brand.
awesome. So you mentioned something how you kind of have your story. I think what I want to share with everybody is that everybody does have a unique story, and I think
Yeah.
Gabe, why is it? We reached out on each other on Instagram, for God's sakes. I mean, we're total strangers. We're just Instagramming each other, so it's so easy to connect nowadays. But Gabe, why do you think it is that people just don't take that extra step? They have that doubt, but what was different from you in your mind? Was it just the failures you had? Say, look, I just got to do something. You just
Yeah.
took massive action, or what do you think it is that really separates you from other people?
So I think it's different for everybody. And like you said, for some people it's doubt, for some people it's fear, whether it's fear of failure or success. For some people, they just don't know. They don't know the options. They're just stuck in their environment and they don't see a way out. For me, to be honest, I grew up like blessed. I mean, I grew up in a two-parent household. I'm the oldest of five siblings, and both my parents were pharmacists. So like I wasn't struggling in terms of financially, so to speak. I mean, we weren't balling or anything, but where it really shook up for me was shortly after graduating and going into medical school, because my original plan was to be a doctor. And by all means, I still love the medical field. I'm kind of like a low-key nerd with science and all that kind of stuff. And but around that time, I was kind of going back and forth between whether I wanted to pursue medicine or kind of go this entrepreneurial path and more of like a speaking, just inspiring path. Not that you can't do both. But for me, what ended up happening was I ended up getting diagnosed with a pulmonary embolism, which for a guy that my age, I mean, late 20s, pretty athletic. I work out like almost every day kind of thing. It kind of like threw me for a loop. So I was hospitalized. Doctors were shocked that I was like alive kind of thing. And it really, that threw everything out of whack for me. Like, when you're young, you don't necessarily realize like mortality doesn't really like hit you like that, and so it really shook up my perspective, because one out of three people that get what I have, the first symptom is like sudden death. So I was like even lucky to be alive. So I struggled with fear, just like of living, of like literally of just like I just felt I went through some like depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. Went through treatment for about 6 months with blood thinners, only to get diagnosed again with a second pulmonary embolism. So it literally in a span of a year and a half, I went through like two life-threatening situations. And that really altered just kind of how I just saw everything. Because at the end of the day, I had to ask myself, like, there's more to life than just like going to work, getting an education, making money, all that stuff is great. But like, why are we here, and what could I do with the time that I have to help other people, to impact other people, and to realize whether it is going through a health crisis or a financial crisis or a crisis with their family, or just in general confidence, how to kind of pick yourself up and move out of that. Because let me tell you, when you're in it, it's dark and it doesn't look like there's a way out. And I definitely can relate to that. And that's kind of what started me like on this path. And I know like health doesn't really deal much with like entrepreneurship and all that kind of stuff, but for me and my for the reason why I decided to kind of go that route was really because of those life events that happened. And yeah, kind of
Oh, for sure. So you mentioned, so obviously, your parents are pharmacists, and obviously you were going to go medicine. With me, I was the only one ever to go in medicine. And I originally started out the same way as you, just trying to make a difference, wanted to make the greatest impact. My grandfather died of throat cancer. So I felt, hey, my wife, we make the joke, I'm a little bit older, I'm 47. So my wife goes, do you want to go medicine or dentistry? And I didn't want to be married to my pager my whole life, which you guys don't even know what a pager is, but I do. So
I know enough.
I decided to go dentistry and try to make that impact. But what I was finding though, Gabe, and I bet you with you, is that I just wasn't fulfilling my purpose. Like there was something bigger inside me. Not that I don't love treating patients. I do. I still serve them to this day. But there was more to it. Like I want to touch the masses and leave a legacy and kind of put my stamp in this world. Not my parents' stamp, not my mom's stamp, not Gabe's stamp, but my stamp,
Exactly.
And I think Gabe, that's kind of what you did. But what are you doing now, maybe, Gabe, to help others build their stamp? I know you're a marketer, but what do you like? What's your long-term vision or plan to put Gabe's legacy in this world?
And that's a great question. So I know right now I'm like a marketer, and I teach people how to build businesses online, or essentially take their ideas, take their side hustles, and create like marketing systems around that so that they could generate income and not like create a second job for themselves, so to speak, in a business. But long term, honestly, I would love to create. I've always thought about kind of creating some kind of like academy or just a movement where I'm teaching not just the financial stuff, of how to generate money and how to build a personal brand and how to monetize. There's so many different ways to make money online, depending on like what your interests are, what your skill sets are. So I definitely want to teach people how to do that, because it comes down to like the hierarchy of needs. Like no one is, a lot of us aren't going to focus on bigger things like going out and serving our community and doing like kind of those things if we don't have our household in check, if we don't have our bills paid, or if we're worried about where our next check is going to come. You're so focused on survival mode that you kind of forget everything else out. So that's kind of why I started with helping people financially get that situated, understand and realize that, okay, once this is kind of set and you're not really necessarily worried about it 24/7, how can you use your skill sets or use your gifts that you've been given to like help empower people? So I also want to teach like just like mindset things, like understanding kind of like how the world works, you know what I mean? And not to get too like woo-woo or anything like that with like the law of attraction and all that kind of stuff. I'm still personally like learning it myself and still like practicing it in my life. But I see that, there's just so much more to life than like what we see and what we feel and like what's like kind of around us. And like understanding that, educating people about that will literally help unlock and unplug people from kind of living in like the system, so to speak, and and realize that they can create the life that they want, and not just for themselves and for their families, for everyone else around them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I look at, if I told you my journey, my mom was a social worker. I mean, my God, my dad, well, we'll leave him out of the question, but my point is how do you become, really, you just take a massive action and you follow your heart. But here's the thing, I tell this to dental students all the time. I say this to the doctors, I say it to the pharmacist, the real estate agent, whoever, shoe repair guy, you are a brand. Yes, no matter exactly. If you work for somebody, you are a brand. You need to market your brand. Like, what's going to separate you? I don't care if you work at GM or Ford or you're a pharmacist. I mean, just in my own street corner, there's 100 dentists in Genesee County, right? So what separates you? And this is where everybody has to understand, Gabe. You understand it. You are marketing. You're marketing your family.
Whether you know it or not.
Whether you know it or not. So anytime says, I don't really know how to do that. I think what's cool is that there are people like you and even people like me who's in a niche who wants to push people further, right? And so, I know what I would say to somebody. I want to hear from you. Somebody who's scared, somebody who's fearful, they don't want to quit their 9-to-5 job. I get it. Okay. What would you, I would say, hey, make your job better. But Gabe, what would you say to that person who just needs that extra like push, to kind of go in their direction? What would you say to them?
So it's funny because it's sometimes it's easier said than done. Like I could just say, go take a step, take action, and like, right, because that's essentially what you need to do. You know what I mean? All of us have a fear. All of us have a certain comfort zone that we're just not comfortable going out of. And we all have different levels of that. And for somebody that might be listening to this, they just might not be comfortable taking that step. So the first thing I would tell them to do is just understand kind of, it's more of like a mindset thing. Understand the way that you think, and kind of get around or look at other people that have done something similar to like that. You know what I mean? Because kind of belief comes from hearing and like hearing other people's stories, or like reading books, or just seeing that there are other regular average people that have taking those steps, the same steps that you might be fearful of taking, and have like gone on to like be successful or whatever. I mean, it might not be easy, but they've taken those steps. And to find a mentor, find somebody that you can kind of lean on, find somebody that can kind of give you the shortcut and give you the answers. Because another thing too is like, you don't have to do it alone. You know what I mean? Sometimes it might feel like that, but you don't have to go about it alone. That there are people out here to support. There are people out here that have done it before you, and it's just a matter of kind of doing your research and reaching out to those people. And then also one thing I also kind of like teach kind of like my audience and stuff is getting out of your comfort zone is like a muscle. It's like anything. If I wanted to get bigger in the gym, the only way you get bigger in the gym is by applying more and more stress. And if you don't have any, if you've never been to the gym before, you're not starting off benching 300 pounds, right? You're starting off with the bar first. So in a sense, building up your confidence or building up your ability to take steps out of your comfort zone is like a muscle. So I always encourage people to start doing little things, little tiny things in their day to help them get them out of their comfort zone. It could be as simple as like taking a cold shower. Like I know for some people that's kind of crazy. I recently started taking cold showers, and by the way, I hate cold showers. You know what I mean? Like hated it. But I've been taking cold showers now every day for the last couple of months, and I found myself almost looking forward to it. But it was like one of those things that like I knew I hated, but it would get me out of my comfort zone. And just like taking that little step every single day, it bleeds into other areas of your life. So whether that's, asking for, if you can have something, or like a discount at a store, or talking to a person that you wouldn't naturally talk to, just finding finding little things throughout your day that you already are uncomfortable with. You kind of feel that tension, but then taking that step and doing that. As you continue to practice doing that, you'll start to expand your comfort zone, and you'll realize that will bleed into other areas of your life, and help you get to where you're trying to go.
Perfect. You said something, and I'm a big resistance guy, right? So I think it's funny that, so many people, even myself, and I'm guilty in my lifetime, I'll hit that resistance. I don't care if it's trying to pick up that girl, whatever it is, like you hit that resistance and you immediately stop. And what we realize is, kind of what you touched about on working out, that resistance, if you can push through that resistance, that last rep, that last set, you will break through the glass ceiling. And then we, talk about the Bible just a little bit, not to throw anybody for the loop, but like there's a glass ceiling, right? And so people say you got to break through that glass ceiling to get to the other side. And you're going to have, you think about it, you'll have cuts, you'll have scars, you'll have bruises, you'll have everything. But once you reach that other side, baby, it is beautiful, right? So to me, that resistance is key. And even myself, when I fell short, I stopped when I met that resistance. And I think what you just talked about is like, getting people out of the comfort zone, is that people got to understand that you will hit resistance in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Discipline yourself to push through it because it's beautiful, right?
Exactly.
A little small thing, and I could talk for hours for you because I can tell a line, but
right.
Think of a life of a seed, right? I mean, at first, the seed we buried in the ground, whatever, 2-3 feet deep, whatever. I'm not a planter, but let's just use the analogy. and you got to put it as damp, it's cold, it's dark, and you plant. You got to put nourish it. There's where the mentors come in. You got to have a mentor. You got to have a coach. You got to have a marketing guy that knows stuff. surround yourself with people that are in line with you that can push you to that next level. And then at first it's dark and gloomy, and the poor seed, if it had a mind, would go, oh my God, this sucks. I'm sitting out here for months and it's cold. But then it breaks through and it sees the world out there and the beautiful sunlight and the big sky, right? I mean, that's what you do. That's what I do. We push people through the next level. But hey, man, I could talk forever. Gabe, if people are going to reach out to you, and this is when I say you got to say it exactly. How can people reach out to Gabe? How can they reach out to you, man?
So you can follow me on Instagram. That's a Marketing Made Easy. Or you could, or my YouTube channel or my website, GabeEkemezie.com. Reach out to me if you have any questions. If you just want to talk, like I'm all for it. I respond to any comments, any questions, and yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm all about trying to help people. Like I think both of us are aligned in that for sure, which is refreshing to hear, man. Because I mean, yeah, I feel like that just makes everything worth it, Like there's just more to life than worrying about yourself.
Totally. Hey guys, just so you know, he's telling the truth. I mean, we really reached out to each other on IG, DMs and Instagram. I said, hey, you want to be a guest on my podcast? He says, absolutely. And so here we go. We were total strangers until today. And look at it. He's worth his weight in gold. Support Gabe. Hey, Gabe, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Have a blessed life, my friend. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much as well.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Gabe.
All
Thanks,
right,
buddy.